The Chosen season 5 episode 7 has this portion, it's like the second half of the episode, that is entirely flashbacks of the apostles, particularly a lot of the ones that we don't have a lot of the early story for, at least it's not shown on screen. And so we're gonna jump into this, we're gonna talk about this, we're gonna skip around quite a bit because this whole section is like 30-35 minutes, so we're not gonna just watch all of it, but we're gonna jump around to the interesting parts and kind of give our thoughts on why this takes place. Is this filler, or is this really an important part of the story that we're talking about? First things first, let's talk about why they're even here in the first place. First off, we've got Simon Z, who is walking through the market, but why are they walking around the city of Jerusalem in the first place? Well, the overall thought is that they are being tracked by Kaphne's men and in turn the Romans, because Kaphne is now working with the Romans as they've found out through seeing them being, stalked throughout this episode. And so here we see that Simon is taking a obscure route basically to get to the upper room so that nobody follows them and they can see if someone's following them in order to lose their tail basically. And so that they can get to the upper room without anybody knowing where they are and nobody interrupting their Passover meal that they're going to have with Jesus that night. So if that makes sense, that's why everybody's kind of going these obscure ways to the Last Supper, the upper room there. Here he passes by a butcher, and as he goes to the back door, he sees that there is basically blood running from the back door, which is of course very common for a butcher who's cleaning meat and has blood there. But it reminds Simon Z of something that he went through before, which was this. And he's stuck in a room basically back when he was a zealot with two younger zealots here alongside him. He's got his Sakari dagger and he is basically trapped in this room. They're trying to barricade themselves in and not let anybody in. And they're essentially saying that, well, we might die here.
No. Go out the back. I'll fight them alone.
But our mission is not done.
Micah, you'll have many more missions to complete. Save yourselves so you can carry them out and continue the work of the fourth philosophy.
So the fourth philosophy, meaning the Zealots, which is of course the group that they are a part of. These are younger guys that he's probably teaching at this point. And so these are basically disciples of Simon the Zealot, if that makes sense. We don't know when this takes place, if this is a year before before he starts to follow Jesus, or if this is 10 years before he starts to follow Jesus. We know that his brother was an invalid for 38 years, so a long period of time. We also know that he is about 40 years old. And so at least when we first meet him in the first section of The Chosen. So this has got to be him when he is around between 30 and 37, let's say, somewhere in that range. But we don't know exactly where that takes place. We do see these younger guys here, one of them named Micah, and he wants to protect them. So he says, you guys go, I'll take this on and I'll take the, basically I'll sacrifice myself so that you guys can get away. Yeah.
We need men like you. Go now. We will sing songs about your valor, Simon. I said go. Run.
And so here, someone is trying to get in this door. We don't know if it is Romans. We don't know if it is some other group that is coming to attack them. Most likely, 99%, it's going to be Romans that are coming in to kill them. They really don't like the Zealots. They really like to take them out because they are dangerous to the Romans and to basically any authority there. Now, as they go out the back door, he realizes that they are no longer pounding on the front door and everything goes quiet. Then he goes out the back door and he sees as the two boys are assassinated. And so he sees them there as he's holding his dagger ready to fight. There's nobody here anymore. So pretty quickly it happened where they didn't even care about the bodies or anything. They just left the bodies there and killed them, which is interesting. I don't think the Romans would have done that. They probably would have taken them and crucified them and given them like a proper trial and everything. I'm not sure. So I don't know who killed them here. If it's a different type of group that would have come in, it's hard for me to know. But we see Simon here, the main section of this. What the reason why they're showing this flashback is to show that he's gone through a lot of different things. And really the main sentence here that he's probably hearing in his head is, I should have been dead. But he wasn't. He was spared by God in order to become the apostle that he was, and all of that stuff kind of happened in the future. Again, none of this is biblical. We can't really know. We don't have many sentences at all in the scriptures about who Simon the Zealot is. But of course, course, he definitely plausibly could have been in dangerous situations where he should have died, and God could have saved him through that. And so that's kind of where he is here, even as he is kind of mourning the loss of these students of his. He's remembering that and where he's come from as he sees the pool of blood kind of coming from the butcher here, as we kind of go back to that shot and we see him walking forward from that blood there. This is the life that he lived. He lived a life of blood. And so as he goes through that, he's remembering, okay, I'm not part of that anymore. There is a new blood that's going to be covering him soon, but he doesn't quite know about that either. Talking about Jesus, of course. But here he's remembering his old life and how he is no longer a part of that. The next one that we get is Nathaniel. As he's walking through the market, he sees this vendor who has a lyre here, Lyre, and she's showing it to a person who's about to buy it.
Turtles are from Greece. Great resonance. Hear this?
And so this song, for whatever reason, brings him back to a specific memory, which we go to here. So here we see Nathaniel in architecture class of some sort. This is not necessarily an architecture office. This seems to be some sort of school that he is a part of here. And we see a bunch of different drawings that he has. Of course, a bunch of different Hebrew as well that's written throughout. One thing that they almost always do, by the way, and you can see it right here, all of the actors read from left to right just because it's what they do. That's not how you read Hebrew. You do not read Hebrew from left to right. You read it from right to left. And so you can see here, if we back up a little bit, Austin, even in this moment, reads from left to right, and he even uses his finger to point from left to right. So you can see right here, he points to the left and then moves it to the right. That's not how you read or write Hebrew, so it doesn't make any sense. But again, it's just one of those little things that we catch up on here. Now, as he's going through this, it's clearly some sort of class or some sort of midrash almost for architecture specifically, it looks like. You know what this feels like? I'm just thinking about it. This feels like the ancient equivalent to like a WeWork. like he's trying to get some early architecture stuff done, like he's starting his business. And all these other guys are like at the WeWork together because they don't have an office of their own. That's what it feels like to me. Not sure what triggers him here, why he's so mad, but he does get obviously very upset after he breaks his quill there, after he dips his pen in the ink and then breaks it. Then he gets mad. He's frustrated about something. He goes over to the window, and then we see this woman singing here that he hears out the window.
Steps I cry to you, hear my voice. Oh Lord.
Okay, we're gonna pause right here and we'll come back to this in a second. This song that she's singing is from Psalm 130. And so it's a song of ascent is what it's called. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord, you hear my voice. Let my ears be attentive to your voice of my pleas for mercy. If you, O Lord, should mark iniquities, O Lord, who could stand? In other words, who would be sinless, right? But with you there is forgiveness, that you may be feared. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in the world, and in his word, I hope. My soul waits for the Lord more than watchmen for the morning, more than watchmen for the morning. O Israel, hope in the Lord. And it continues on from there. But we really only get this section right here, but it's a song of ascents. And so we have this from Psalm 130. That's what she's singing here. Now, in this shot right here, I want you to notice a few different things as we kind of look throughout. You see these lanterns here. You see these torch lights here as well. The door over here, someone coming out of the door. You see these torches lit as they're kind of spouting some flame. You see this center section over here. We've seen this a million different times, right? Within the show. This is the outside of the synagogue within Capernaum. And so we can see that right here, actually, back in this episode in season 3 with Simon, before he was Peter, and Gaius here. And so we see the same thing. We see the torches here not lit in this scene, but we see the lanterns on the outside. We see the doors over here, people walking in and out of the synagogue. And then here is the well that at this point is broken. But of course, back in time with Nathaniel, probably wasn't, but they're fixing it here. So the same location, we're seeing that here as Nathaniel's looking out the window. So for some reason, Nathaniel is in Capernaum doing some sort of schooling. This is one of the things in these flashbacks. It's like logically this is like a kind of weird for me. I don't think this is supposed to be Capernaum. I think they're supposed to be somewhere else that we're just not given like a complete narration. The reason why I say this is probably not Capernaum is because if this is Capernaum and if Nathaniel was here for a long period of time doing schooling in Capernaum, then certainly a lot of the other apostles would know him, right? Peter, John, James, Andrew, Matthew, more than just Philip would know them. Philip is from Bethsaida, and so we would assume that Nathaniel is from Bethsaida as well, since they were such close friends growing up. And like we're going to see in this part here, Philip even talks to him. But I don't understand why they would have Capernaum here. And maybe it's not supposed to be, like I said. Maybe I'm just nitpicking because it's the same set. But of course, if it's the same set, it should be the same place, right? So anyway, we see Nathaniel as he's back in his old self. The whole point of the scene, again, is to have Nathaniel be where he was before. He let his art and his architecture rule his life. So when something was going wrong with that, like we saw earlier in this scene, he gets very, very upset and he controls his emotions. It controls how he feels. It controls his value of how he sees himself. Because his architecture is not going the way that he wants it to go, he loses that piece of himself and he loses that part of his identity, which makes him pretty upset, right? Now, later on in the scene, we see this song being played. He looks up at the church. He sees how beautiful the synagogue is that's outside and how he wants to build something like that. And he gets kind of upset here. And then he has a guy that brings him a note from a friend of his. And this is where we get Philip kind of talking through. Again, we're going to kind of skip through a lot of this because we're not going to watch all the way through here.
As you are no doubt at this very moment buried in academic proofs and the life's work of others, our God is doing for you what all the studying in the world could not.
So there it shows like he's studying these other pieces of architecture so that he can learn how to do his own, basically. And so Philip calls that out and says, you probably have your nose in a bunch of different books, learning from these different academic proofs. In other words, things that people have done in their life's work, getting ready to do your own. And then he's writing the rest of this letter here.
Making you a friend I miss greatly. A testament to the heights men can reach. And a unique pain as a companion. John says we were making...
So he makes fun of him a little bit there, calling him a pain as a companion, but in love, I guess.
The way straight and wide. It is glorious. But do not wish you were here. Not yet. Study hard. Your time to help build this road will come. Shalom, shalom. Philip. So here he come back to Nathaniel here,
who, again, I think the whole point of this is to show where he is now, right? He's come from a point where Philip was saying, I want you to be part of this journey. Now he's part of that journey. He's coming from a point of, I used to think that architecture was my value and that's where my identity was held, but now it's held within Jesus and who he is and within the Father, right? And so that is how Nathaniel has changed over time. That's kind of the main point of what we're seeing here with him. Now, moving on, we get to this next section, which is a little bit more clear. First of all, the very end of Nathaniel's section has him looking up not as at a synagogue, but looking up at the temple itself, the Holy of Holies itself. This area here holds the Holy of Holies, the most holy place within all of Judaism. And so as he's right next to the temple, he looks up and he sees this location here, that of course he would believe is one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful piece of architecture in the world at the time. And so, we see that there at the very end of his moment. Then we get into this moment where we see Philip and Andrew.
King Herod's carriage coming through. Move!
Get out of the way!
Him! Move, all of you! Make straight the way!
Get out! Don't just stand there!
All of these, go!
So this is a common thing that we would see with Roman soldiers clearing the way for an important person to come through. For example, here is Herod Antipas, as far as we know. It could be another Herod, actually. The carriage here with a Herod in it. And we see him as he's coming through, making straight the way. Ahead of him is the soldiers here.
Clear the path!
You!
Clear the
You're
way!
in the way!
Come, move! Make way!
Everyone, move!
So here we see a younger version of Andrew and Avner.
See this? Hey, Abner. Look at this.
And then here, another younger version of John the Baptist and Philip. Philip looks relatively the same. Andrew does look like he did in season 1, which I think is so cool. Avner has never really changed for us. He looks the same as always. Avner, if you don't remember, is the disciple of John the Baptist who was sent in season 3, episode 6, along with Nadab. And so we don't see Nadab here at all. I was wondering if we're going to see him in this moment as well, as this is during season 1. This is during episode 3/4 of season 1. If you remember that far back, we have as Andrew comes back to see Peter as he's been kicked out of the house, essentially from Eden, and he yells and he says, I've seen the Messiah, right? This is basically right before the baptism of Jesus. Which is crazy in the timeline. I'm not going to get into the timeline again. But again, logically for me, I'm like, okay, what is taking place here? What is happening here in the timeline? Because this is technically like he at this point, Andrew already knows that his brother owes a bunch of money in taxes, that there's a big issue there, and that they need to go back and they need to make money for their family. But we know that he's with John whenever Jesus is going to be baptized. And so this is when that happens, okay? So who should we expect to see here? Not only should we expect to see Andrew, we should expect to see, of course, Philip and Avner and Nadab. Possibly Nadab wasn't a part of his disciples quite yet. We won't get into that. Anyway, I'm going down so many rabbit holes. We also should see potentially Matthias here as well. And so there's some other people that we could see here. But John looks great as a younger John here. He looks very similar to as he did in season 1, except for the beard looks a bit better than it did back then. And so, I think they did a great job with this scene in particular. I'd just say timeline-wise, it confuses me quite a lot. But we see as they're at the beginning of their journey here. Again, this is season 1, like episode 3-4 timeline-ish.
The last time, I need these roads as wide as possible. What are you doing? Move out of the way. Move. Hey!
Gente!
Clear the way!
You! What right have you to deface this sacred land? Uprooting our trees? Displacing Jewish citizens?
We're making way for the entourage of a very important person coming to town. Not that we owe you an explanation.
I'll tell you about...
It's interesting they don't say who it is. I think that's probably smart. But we don't see who is coming to town. That's very, very important. obviously someone Roman. But we see as all of them are making the way through this thing. Again, I cannot help but point out specific things. For example, as we look around the area, why did they pick the one lane of area that has any trees? Because in Israel, I mean, it's not common for there to be this many trees all bunched up in one area. I guess they really, really wanted the road to be as straight as possible. And so they chose this one area that was kind of clumped up with trees in order to go through, which seems a little bit strange to me. If you look everywhere else in this image, for example, there's not really any trees anywhere else other than where this road is. And so for me, my brain kind of explodes. But
A very important person coming to town.
Oh, yes, you will.
If this is about another one of your prophets, I don't want to hear it.
so you can kind of see there's so much open space everywhere around here.
He didn't ask if you wanted to hear about it. He is the voice of the one crying in the wilderness. Prepare the way of the Lord. Make his path straight.
And I'm the voice of one telling you we're making a path straight for someone real.
All right. Now, a cool thing here I'll point out is this guy's face. This guy, you might recognize him because he was in season 4 of The Chosen. So if we hop over to that real fast, we can see this guy right here. I think that's the same guy, right? Looks very similar to me. Same chin structure, same face structure, same nose, same eyebrows, right? So yeah, very similar, just without his helmet on and off here. But he is one of the Roman soldiers that gives his gear to the apostles and to Jesus as they are walking toward Bethany, and then they make them go 2 miles out of the way, right? And so they go extra mile there. And so I think that's the same guy though, which is quite interesting. Obviously he'd be a little bit younger. This is probably about 2.5 years, maybe closer to 3 years before this point here. And so yeah, tie back to that same Roman guy. Pretty interesting there. The guy that makes the joke about the tips in season 4. And so we see him there again. So interesting.
Not from your imagination.
This is beyond your imagination.
I would advise you to be vigilant and humble, because he who is coming is mightier than I. I'm not even worthy to untie the strap of his sandal.
And I'm mightier than you, so move your group out of here.
Even now, the axe is laid at the root of the trees. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is struck down and thrown into the fire.
You know why people don't listen to freaks like you? Because you deal in riddles.
I came to bear witness about the coming light to my own people, the house of Israel. But to you, what I would say is, do not extort money from anyone through threats or by false accusation. And be content with your wages.
You hear that? Be content with your wages.
How much longer do you guys go?
So interesting here. We get some of John's actions here, which of course we can see within scripture. Luke chapter 3 has this whole entire section basically here. So in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar, possibly who they're preparing the way for, right? Pontius Pilate being governor over Judea, and Herod being the tetrarch of Galilee, and his brother Philip, tetrarch of the region of Iturea and Trachonitis, these names, and Lysanias, tetrarch of Albaline, during the high priesthood of Annas and Caiaphas. The word of God came to John, the son of Zechariah, in the wilderness, and he went into all the region around the Jordan, proclaiming a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sins, as it was written in the book of the words of Isaiah the prophet, the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make his paths straight. Every valley shall be filled, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall become straight, and the rough places shall become level ways, and all flesh shall see the salvation of God. He said therefore to the crowds that came out to be baptized by him, you brood of vipers, who warned you to flee from the wrath to come, who warned you from the to flee from the wrath to come. Bear fruits in keeping with repentance, and do not begin to say to yourselves, we have Abraham as our father, for I tell you, God is able from these stones to rise up children for Abraham. Even now the axe is laid to the root of the trees. Every tree, therefore, does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire, just like we saw in that scene there. And the crowds asked him, what then shall we do? And he answered them, whoever has 2 tunics is to share one, blah, 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 right? And then tax collectors came to be baptized, and they said, teacher, what shall we do? And he said to them, collect no more than you're authorized to do. Soldiers then asked him, what shall we do? Which is, again, here we're seeing soldiers come to him. This word soldier, I think, is specific to Roman soldiers. I'd have to go back and look at it again, but I believe the word that's used here, the Greek word that's used here in Luke, soldiers, means specifically Roman soldiers. Also asked him, and we, what shall we do? And he said to them, do not extort money from anyone by threats or by false accusation, and be content with your wages. So we see that in scripture as well. And as the people were in expectation, and all they were questioning in their hearts concerning John, whether he might be the Christ, John answered them, saying, I baptize you with water, but he who is mightier than I is coming, the strap of whose sandals I'm not worthy to untie. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and with fire. His winnowing fork is in his hand to clear his threshing floor and to gather the wheat into his barn, but the chaff he will burn with unquenchable fire. So with many other exhortations he preached good news to the people, but Herod the Tetrarch, who had been reproved by him for Herodias, his brother's wife, and for all the evil things that Herod had done, added this to them all that he locked up John in prison. And now when all the people were baptized, when Jesus also had been baptized and was praying, the heavens were opened and the Holy Spirit descended on him in bodily form like a dove, and a voice came from heaven, you are my beloved son, with you I am well pleased. So we see all this kind of come out in Luke chapter 3 as John is shown to be who he is here, and a lot of that comes from that section there. But we see Andrew and Avner as they're walking down the road. It seems like here that Andrew does not have much experience with John, which is kind of weird if this is episode 3/4 of season 1. I could be wrong about that timeline. It seems like it is, because he's talking about how he owes money specifically. I don't know. Let's keep on watching here.
I got a fish in 2 days.
You've got fish?
No, I wish. No, I have to travel back to Galilee. Fish with my brother. I can't stay with you guys all the time. We've got taxes to pay.
Taxes are a man-made construct built from...
So that's clearly a reference to season 1, right? They have taxes to pay. He has to go fish with his brother. Maybe this is referencing earlier taxes that they owed before the whole debacle of season 1 happened. But it seems like it's referencing season 1 to me. And if that's the case, then it seems like he hasn't been with the group of John. At least he hasn't traveled with them very often. What he's basically saying here is like, how long do you guys walk for? How long do you guys go for? Meaning that he doesn't have a ton of experience traveling with John. He's just kind of been around some of his ministry. So I don't know exactly where Andrew lines up with that. We don't get a ton of information in the show about that there.
The mutually agreed upon fallacy that gold has any eternal value.
I like that.
And no, we won't go much longer.
Oh, thank God.
Even now, the axe is laid to the root of the trees. Even now. You know what that means? It means the Messiah is here, near, somewhere in Israel, around us, waiting to inaugurate his ministry.
Yeah, and if this is season 1, then they are headed to the Jordan right now. And when they get to the Jordan, Jesus will show up and will be baptized there. Even though we've never seen it in the show, I was kind of expecting this to be a flashback to that moment, which would have been really cool, but we didn't get it in this moment.
Does this kingdom include food?
It includes feasts.
How soon?
That is a useless question.
I'm starving. I'm so hungry I can't think straight.
Why don't you say something?
Say something.
We have plenty of food.
Then why is everyone around here as gaunt as a mongoose?
Not just any food. Delicacies. Hold on.
What?
fried in olive oil, then dried, simmered with a bit of wild honey. Andrew, I give to you candied locusts.
So they take locusts with honey, which is something that John is known to have eaten, and they change it into candied locusts here, kind of, poured over with honey and then cooked. So yeah, that's what they're eating here, where John was he was known to have eaten locusts and honey. And so we have that there. Interesting thing going into that one. They kind of have a little bit of a moment coming back to just the two of them.
Hurry! Move! Stand in the way.
And of course, Andrew looks so much older here. This is probably around 3 years later, right? That we're seeing Andrew here, but his hair has probably changed more than anybody in the show. He's gone from that really short hair to more of like a man bun into now he's got that gray kind of coming off to the side, similar to me, kind of in my stripe of white here. But obviously he looks much older than he did at the beginning of the show, for sure. I think he's done the most maturing probably from a standpoint of the apostles, with some others being around there, but for sure he's changed quite a lot. Moving on to our next one here, we've got Thomas. As he looks over, he sees a woman that breaks some pottery on accident.
Hey, watch where you're going. Look.
Let me.
It's fine.
And so that reminds him of his childhood, where we go back in time. Now I have to be fair here. Thomas does not look like he's a young person here. Now we know that when Thomas went to Rama's family, when he went to Cophny, he was a young boy, is what they said in the show, right? So we know that first of all, he was an orphan, so something must have happened to his mother as well. And then he goes to Cophny to work for Cophny when he was a young boy. The shaving of the beard and stuff, I get what they're trying to do, but he does not look younger here to me. In some ways, he kind of looks older even than he does with a beard. And so I get that he's trying to act younger here. I would have rather had a different actor, a younger actor, play Thomas here, and just say his name so that we know it's him, basically. I don't know. He looks, I don't know. It didn't really work for me. Let me know your thoughts on this.
Abba. Thomas, we want to tell you something. Are you awake enough to listen carefully?
So again, we're going to skip through these because there's not a ton of scripture and stuff here. Essentially what happened was that Thomas's father took some relatives and they went to go settle something with some, adversaries that they had, essentially some neighbors that were doing some things they didn't like, and wanted to take care of it. Then they end up beating up some of his relatives, and then he ends up killing someone, it seems like, or at least hurting them severely, to where he is now being arrested by the Roman government. And so that is what happens here.
Love you. I love you, Thomas.
Don't move! Get down, pig!
No, forget!
And it really seems like they are not taking him to go put him in prison, but they are going to kill him, because we see in season 2, episode 3 of The Chosen, that Thomas has lost his dad. And so it's not that, it at least seems like it insinuates that his dad is dead. So possibly his dad has been crucified. Possibly he's been executed some other way, most likely crucified with the Romans. But yeah, we don't really know what's happening here, but his name is Jedediah, and so he is taken away here, and Thomas has a moment with his mother, who we don't really get any information on either. His mother is not really talked about again, but she's here in this scene here.
I love you, Thomas.
Quiet!
Take care of your Ima. Do you hear me, Thomas?
Get up, Jew! Go! Move! Thomas!
So yeah, my biggest thing, again, there's reasons for all this, right? We've got all the other ones, Simon Z, Nathaniel, Andrew and Philip. They're showing where they've come from and how far they've gone, right? So same thing with Thomas here. He's come from a broken home. Now he has a broken relationship with Rama and everything that's happened there. His new father, Kophni, is now his enemy and attacking him there as well. So there's a lot of things that have changed for Thomas, but these parts of his life that are broken have almost followed him throughout that, and now he has to trust in Jesus and learn how to deal with all of this, and he really hasn't quite gotten there, but all of that is kind of connected, right? The storytelling is that Thomas has had a broken life and it continues to be broken, and now he's going to have to rely on Jesus, and he's going to the Last Supper faithful and obedient in that, even though he's still hurting, even though he's still broken, and that I think is a piece of it here. That is why they're giving us this moment with him, and giving us a little bit of insight as to what happened with his father as well is definitely a piece of that too. Now next we get Matthew. As he sees a tax collector and a Roman guard, he flashes back to his first day on the job as a tax collector. Of course, similar things here. We're seeing the old version of Matthew before he understood Jesus, and he's chosen just recently that he is going to work for the Roman government. And so this is before his family has disowned him, but after he's chosen to do that. And so now it's his first day on the job with Gaius as he's dealing with different things here.
Traitor. Soldier! Soldier! Are you just going to stand there and do nothing?
We only intervene if weapons get involved or someone causes disruption.
This is disruptive. I cannot finish today. I need to go home and wash.
No. You can't even make it through your first day on the job. There are a lot of people waiting for you to fall.
You are unlikely to find 5 willing and qualified candidates in all of Capernaum.
So again, we see this kind of play out. We're going to skip through here. Matthew talks with Gaius, and basically they fight back and forth about what Gaius is going to do. One of the key things that they talk about within the storyline here is right here, where Gaius actually has prepared Matthew an escort, which brings us all the way back to episode 1 of season 1, where Matthew has an escort to get to his tax booth without being seen by the public and being safe there. And Gaius is the one that set that up for him originally.
No. You do not look like you've been in many fistfights.
What's that supposed to mean?
The last Jew that defected and took this job got his teeth knocked out by a fisherman on his way home the first day. Hey, look, I do not care if you get beaten to death by your Jewish brethren. I don't care if you die in your sleep or if somebody chases you down on a horse. You get the point?
Yeah, clearly a very different Gaius than what we're used to now.
But if something happens to you while you are working, Quintus will punish me by making me do your job until he finds a replacement, and I don't like sitting. And I do not like math. That's why I soldier. Soldier good. Get it?
Yep.
Then maybe you should escort me home for protection.
Not part of my job. What you're going to do with your newly acquired salary is hire a driver who can smuggle you back and forth from work in a cart hidden like cargo.
So there is his idea there of setting up, this driver. And of course, Matthew ends up doing that. That's what he does in season 1. Now, this is the only time we see Gaius within this season, so it's cool to see him as well. But we don't really see him at all within the rest of this season. And I don't really think we're going to see much, if any, of Gaius throughout all of season 6 either. It's going to be focused in Jerusalem. There's not really any moments that I could see us justifiably going back to Capernaum for any significant amount of time, other than just a quick little look. In season 7, we will definitely see Gaius, because there's certain things that happen in and around Capernaum that are going to be interesting during the resurrection and all the things that happen there as well. So there's definitely going to be more of Gaius in the future of the series. I would hope that we see a lot of returning characters within the last season of The Chosen, but in season 6, I don't assume we'll see him pretty much at all. Now, going forward here, We see as they come to that agreement, they kind of get back to work, and that is the end of Matthew's section here. Next up, we have little James, who is walking through the court of women in the temple, and he hears the temple choir. In other words, the 288. I do think it's funny, by the way. First of all, we have Reuben here, who, yes, he's an extra and he's in a lot of other scenes as well, but he also plays Reuben, who is the servant of Nicodemus. And so we see him with Matthias at several different points, but this is the same actor who plays Reuben. So I assume it's Reuben who's running through this scene as well with little James before he looks over at the choir. But yeah. Also, the 288 seem to only know one song because they keep on singing the same song over and over again throughout the entire season. We've seen them a couple of different times, and every single time they're singing this exact song. So they must not know a lot of songs. They must just repeat the same songs over and over again. But little James looks over and he remembers that he wanted to be part of this. That's where he started his journey. We hear about this all the way back in season 1, where little James actually sings for the group, and he sings for Peter specifically, or Simon at the time, who asks him about where he's come from and what he wanted to do. He wanted to join the 288, and that's where he met Jesus originally. And so that's what we're going to see here. So here we've got little James back in the day, singing in the choir, kind of like learning. He's learning from a class basically here that he is a part of in order to sing. And then we see as they finish up this song and everybody is getting their assignments. And so we see here all these different students are getting assignments.
And you, Eliab. Korazim. Lovely view in the highlands up there. James.
Then it comes to little James, and he decides that he wants to go to Jerusalem in order to be a part of the 288. That's what he wants to do. His teacher kind of gets upset at him a little bit and tries to quell his expectations. He shows them this verse specifically.
For one who has a mutilated face or a limb too long, or a man with an injured foot, or an injured hand, or a hunchback, or a dwarf, or a man with a defect in his side. This is all just restrictions for the priest. The offspring of Aaron.
I know. And in time, they have extended to any man serving in ritual temple services visible to the public.
So basically, because of his disability, he's not allowed to be a part of what is happening in the temple. He's not allowed to serve in any way in the temple, which little James didn't know about before this. And he's saying, nah, that can't be the case. That's not biblical, essentially. They just added that on, right? And so he's going to disprove them. He's going to go anyway, and he's going to sing for the priest anyway to be a part of it, is what he's decided. So he heads off on his own, and he goes into the wilderness by himself on his way to Jerusalem from wherever he was. We don't really know where he's from. I don't believe so. But he heads out into the wilderness and goes toward Jerusalem. Now, in the part before this, he kind of mentions that there's a lot of places to the north that are like good places for him to go. So they must be somewhere, like maybe he's in like Bethel or something like that. That makes sense, right? Bethel being worship music. Maybe he's at like Bethel or somewhere else in between like Jerusalem and the northern cities, but I don't think it tells us there.
Come on.
There we go. No, come on.
So anyway, he can't make a fire. We move forward here. He tries to go to sleep in the darkness here, and he's awoken by Thaddius. So Thaddius is traveling through.
I don't have any money. I don't have.
It's okay, Anaya. I'm not trying to rob you. Everything's fine. You're fine. Thank God. I was just so worried you were a dead body by the side of the road. My rabbi and I were passing by.
So here we see Jesus. This is the earliest we've ever seen Jesus in the show, other than him being a baby. Here is where we see Jesus kind of before the ministry starts. He's just traveling with Thaddius. This is before episode 1, clearly, before episode 3, which is the earliest actual section within the show that we've seen so far within season 1. And so here we see Jesus.
It's cold. You shouldn't be sleeping on the ground without a fire or shelter. Where are you going?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem? I've got a long way to go.
Yeah, and what's it to you?
Hey, what's your name?
James.
James. First things first, James.
Let's get this fire going.
Keep you warm.
Rabbi?
And then, mind if I sit?
Sure.
Okay. Then, I'd love to hear your story.
Are you angels?
So they sit down, they hear his story. He asks if they're angels. Thaddius says no.
No. Well, I mean,
he looks over at Jesus, not quite sure if he's an angel or not. We haven't seen Thaddius's flashback yet. We'll talk about that next week because it is an important part of episode 8 and an important part to the beginning of Thaddius's story. There's some cool stuff in there. But here we don't get a ton of information about that.
No, we're not angels.
just craftsmen. You shouldn't be alone out here.
I'm just going to Jerusalem.
You're going to do there?
So that is the end of little James there. And that brings us to the end where we go to the Last Supper, where they have some Romans that come by. They're kind of afraid the Romans are going to come. They don't end up coming. The tension is building. And then they realize Thaddius isn't here. And Peter says, never underestimate that kid, basically. And so that is how the episode ends. That's the flashbacks there. Now, there's one more flashback, like I said, in episode 8. And that is Thaddius's flashback, but we'll get there when we talk about episode 8. There's some cool stuff in there. So that's the flashbacks. Some people are on the side of like, this is totally filler. It's kind of useless. We didn't like it. Some people are like, I love all the flashbacks. They're so amazing. It's so cool. I'm probably in the middle. I'm probably like, yeah, I see the point of them. Do I think it was kind of boring? Just like as like to watch, like, yeah, kind of like there wasn't enough for me to be like to love it. Absolutely. I get the points that they're trying to make. They're trying to show where these people came from. This is the last time that these 12 apostles are going to be together in a room like this. For the most part, they're going to be scattered, and at least 2 or 3 of them are not going to be part of the major group. So, obviously Judas is not going to be a part of the major group. And so this is like the nostalgia bomb, right? Of being like, here's where we came from and here's where we're going, kind of merging those 2 worlds together and showing these individual journeys that have all met up together to become the 12 apostles. I understand that. I just don't think it was my favorite thing, about this episode for sure, and about this season so far. But yeah, hope you liked it. Let me know your thoughts about the flashbacks overall. What part was your favorite? What did you really like? What did you dislike? Love to hear it in the comments down below. And of course, we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.